Yo, welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day as we officially shift gears to the month of July. And you know what that means? We are exactly 3 weeks away from the start of Philadelphia Eagles 2025 training camp. It does get underway on Tuesday, July 22nd, 3 weeks away. That's the Nolan Smith number. If you're pumped up for the return of Eagles football and for the defending Super Bowl champions to get back on the field, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and spam Go Birds down in the comment section right now. So coming up here on the show, how the Philadelphia Eagles got a gift from the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. And let's start here. The Devontae Smith Celebrity Softball game is over the weekend, and I always think it's a pretty entertaining event to follow because you get football players who hit the baseball and softball diamond, and you get to see a whole different set of skills. We saw Cooper DeJean go yard. Devontae Smith hit a walk-off home run, and you get to see some of these big offensive linemen struggle to swing a baseball or a softball bat. It's really fun to follow, and famous Twitch streamer Janky Rondo was in attendance. He was on the field, and he was on one of the teams that was partaking in Devontae Smith's celebrity softball game. Of note, Janky Rondo is known to be a die-hard Commanders fan. Don't you love this image here to my right? This is him at Lincoln Financial Field this past January in South Philadelphia for the NFC Championship game. It was a bloodbath for his Commanders because Philadelphia hung 55 points on Washington in a game where the Eagles straight up dominated on both sides of the ball. Janky Rondo looking very sad here. He did use the F word for his caption on X, and that's a pretty apt description for how him and the rest of that Commanders fan base was feeling in the aftermath of that game as Philadelphia punched their ticket to the Super Bowl. The Commanders' surprise and dream run in the NFL playoffs came to an end, and we know how the Eagles' playoff run ended with a dominant victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59, the Birds' second Lombardi trophy since 2017. And Janky Rondo is close with Saquon Barkley. They were having a conversation, and Saquon talked to Janky about his free agency process, and he revealed, Saquon did, that neither the Dallas Cowboys or the Washington Commanders reached out to him after the Giants disrespected Saquon in deciding to not wanting to pay him and offering him a disrespectful contract. So the Philadelphia Eagles said, yeah, Saquon Barkley is a one-of-one player, one of the most dynamic offensive players in the National Football League. We don't have a lot of needs on our roster, but we did lose Miles Sanders. We lost DeAndre Swift the following year. Why not add Saquon Barkley to our offense? And we know how it ended up, him having the single best season in the history of the NFL for any running back. Saquon dominated from the start of the year in Brazil when he had a hat trick, 3 touchdowns in his debut with the Birds, all the way until the Super Bowl when he was tremendous throughout that playoff run. Here's the direct quote from Saquon. Never heard a word from the Commanders or Dallas. That's why it's BTA when I see them. BTA stands for belt to ass. What's so surprising is that going into 2024, the Cowboys and the Commanders had big needs at the running back position. This was the Cowboys running back room a year ago. Rico Dowdle was their number one back. He had a good year, but he's not to the level of Saquon Barkley. It's not even close. The Cowboys signed a washed Ezekiel Elliott, the best friend to Dak Prescott. Dalvin Cook was on the practice squad, and Deuce Vaughn, he's a poor man's Darren Sproles. He never really sees the field. As for the Commanders' running back room, Brian Robinson, former Alabama Crimson Tide player who was really good in college. He's really just been okay at the NFL level. The Commanders also had Jeremy McNichols, an old Austin Eckler, and Chris Rodriguez would get some carries from time to time. Both the Cowboys and the Commanders could have really used Saquon Barkley. The Eagles did use Saquon Barkley, and it ended up being One of the best free agent acquisitions for any team in the history of the National Football League. Philadelphia signing Saquon to a 3-year, $37.75 million contract. Saquon got $26 million in guaranteed money the first 2 years of that deal. He went on to win Offensive Player of the Year, the Super Bowl. He was number 3 in MVP voting. He had the most rushing yards for a running back ever in a single season, regular season, playoffs combined. And then he was so good, so electric for Philadelphia. Howie Roseman looked at that 3-year, $37.75 million deal, and he said, you know what? We like to treat our own players very well. We are going to compensate you because you outplayed that contract. And so the Eagles signed him to a new 2-year, $41.2 million extension with $36 million in guaranteed money, making Saquon the richest and highest paid running back in the history of the NFL with how that deal was constructed. Thank you, division rivals, for handing Saquon Barkley over to the Birds. And the signing of Saquon makes Howie Roseman look like a genius. It did then, it does now with this new information, because no other teams in the NFC East wanted him. The Giants let him walk, even though the Giants owner was like, I can't stand the thought of Saquon signing with the Eagles. The Commanders said, yeah, we're okay at the running back position, although Saquon could have been dynamite alongside Jaden Daniels. And the cheap Dallas Cowboys, they have all this money. And Jerry Jones is like, yeah, Saquon Barkley, we're going to pass up on him too. The Eagles said, we have money. He's special. We value special players behind our offensive line. We think that he can be a great pickup for us, and he was that and much more. So Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, Nick Sirianni, they said, let's do it. And look at what Saquon was able to do in his debut season in the city of brotherly love. 345 carries, more than 2,000 yards, 5.8 yards per tote. He averaged 125.3 rushing yards per game, and he accumulated 15 total touchdowns. Saquon set the franchise record for rushing yards in a single season, and he did it in Week 13 with 5 weeks left in the regular season. He set the record also for the most rushing yards in a single season. Again, regular season playoffs combined, taking down Terrell Davis's previous record. And he also set another NFL record as he had 6 touchdowns of 60-plus yards during the regular season. A plethora, a litany of memorable plays, from the backwards hurdle to all of the long runs that he had, the short area burst, the explosiveness, his return to the Meadowlands when he dominated the New York Giants. We could go on and on and on about the miraculous plays that Saquon had in his first season with Philadelphia. And then in the NFL playoffs, against the Packers in the wild card round, he cooked. Against the Rams in the divisional round, he was on fire, including Saquon scamper in the snow in the NFC Championship game. First play from scrimmage for Philadelphia, 60 yards to the crib. He went over 100 yards in 3 of 4 playoff games. I think that he should have been the MVP. And how I gauge and judge MVPs, you take that player away from that team, how does that team fare? Eagles aren't the same team without Saquon. Now, the Bills aren't the same team without Josh Allen. And I know that this NFL MVP voting had to be done before the playoffs, but Saquon showed everybody his high-level value with what he did in the regular season, and then he was just elite in the NFL playoffs as well. Over 100 yards in 3 of 4 playoff games, and his impact in the Super Bowl was felt even though he didn't crack 60 yards. We're going to talk about that and a lot more coming up here just around the corner. I do want to pause and say thank you to the Bird Gang. Yesterday, Philadelphia Eagles now surpassed 122,000 subscribers, and as you can see, we're already on to that next milestone. If you want the best, most elite Eagles coverage every single day right here on YouTube, lock us in and subscribe today. I also want to tell you about this phenomenal deal. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. This sale is even better than it was when we first told you about this. These are the Eagles Super Bowl champion shirts that Eagles players were wearing on the field and in the locker room when they were popping champagne after that Super Bowl victory against Kansas City. They were $40. they are now on sale for just $18. All you have to do is go to chatsports.com/SB shirt. I'm going to put that link down below in the show notes and attach to the pinned comment. Limited time only that you see a deal of this caliber. Hop on board and get your swag today. What's also underrated about what Saquon did last year is how he solidified himself as a leader in the locker room and on the field right from the jump. The Eagles sign him, and immediately he becomes a well-respected player and a beloved player within the locker room, within the organization, and, of course, within this fan base. And the Eagles last year had a terrific culture. A championship culture, it matters. You don't see teams winning titles across all sports that have bad cultures. When you have that type of locker room continuity and synergy, it can translate to the field because everybody is willing to make sacrifices, and that's what some of the Eagle star players did last year. And I thought an underrated moment of the Super Bowl was on the Eagles' first offensive drive. Jalen Hurts drops that dime right in stride to A.J. Brown. And as we know, the Chiefs always have the whistle. And there have been a lot of jokes about the Zebras being on Kansas City's side. Well, A.J. Brown is called for that pass interference call. And the flag came in late. And we thought that with that beautiful throw from Hurts to A.J. Brown, the Eagles were going to get set up to put a touchdown on the board. It was wiped out, and the Eagles had to punt because of that penalty. The Eagles sideline went irate. The Eagles fan base inside the Superdome was livid. Me on the watch party, I was going off. And I'm saying, we can't start this now in this game, and this game can't be decided by officiating like it kind of was in Super Bowl 57 with that James Bradbury hold. What did Saquon Barkley do? He went to the sideline, and he calmed everybody down. He said, yo, chill out. We're good. Eagles come back the next drive, and they end up scoring a touchdown. And from there, they just pummeled Kansas City. That was the long ball from Hurts to Jahan Dotson, and then Jalen Hurts scored on the brotherly shove. And for Saquon to calm everybody down, the Eagles could have unraveled there. We have seen other teams unravel. Philadelphia did not. And Saquon in the Super Bowl, yeah, he didn't crack 60 yards. He only averaged 2.3 yards per tote. Saquon in the playoffs averaged 6.7 yards per carry, even with that 2.3 yards per tote number in the Super Bowl. But his impact was felt in that game. Because what did Steve Spagnuolo do? Steve Spagnuolo, one of the top defensive coordinators in the history of football, put extra defenders around the line of scrimmage to stop 26. Kansas City forced Jalen Hurts to beat them. And Jalen Hurts did exactly that. It opened up the pass game, and it led to Jalen Hurts cooking through the air, cooking that Chiefs defense and winning Super Bowl MVP. That doesn't happen if Saquon Barkley is not on the field demanding all of that attention. I've seen some people in the comments section disputing that with what I've said. Go back and watch the game. The box was loaded with Chiefs defenders, and they would not let Saquon Barkley beat them. So that's having an impact on the game without having an impact on the stat sheet. Another notable thing from that Devontae Smith celebrity softball game, Brandon Graham was talking to Janky Rondo as well, and he said this about the Commanders adding and acquiring Deebo Samuel this offseason. Quote, I wouldn't worry about him. He's got to get in shape first. That's hilarious. And this Eagles-Commanders rivalry here in 2025 and beyond, because of how good the Eagles are and how the Commanders are on the rise, it is going to be spicy. I tweeted that out over the weekend. Speaking of that, be sure to give me a follow on X. Give me a follow on Instagram. I'm always talking birds here on YouTube, and I'm always talking birds on my social media pages at Chase_Senior.